I actually hear he's a really nice guy.
Colby's a habitual liar. Colby's a really bad person. He really is.
Colby Covington. He's perhaps one of the most beloved bad guys in the UFC's history. It would seem from the boos that everyone hates him, but it's clear that the fanbase, me included, loves his character. It's just an act. We recognize he's just trying to make a living and he's a good guy on the inside. But is he really? With most polarizing figures in the sport, it's typically a bit unclear where the line is between their stage character and their real personality, while with Colby it seems very clear, almost too clear at times. With the Chael Sonnen, for example, he would do controversial things like antagonize Brazilians, which is perhaps just for show.
He tried to feed a bus a carrot, and now you're telling me that country has computers? I didn't know that.
But he always acted in relative consistency, and he would never stray too far from the baseline shown for the cameras. Of course, it was all love at the end of the day.
The better guy wins every time. The better guy wins.
But it's not like he was particularly vicious with his trash talk beforehand. It was consistently vague where his character began and ended. While with Colby, what he shows to the cameras is so inconsistent that it sometimes seems like he's using the safety net of "it's just his character" to mask a deeply unlikable personality. What do I mean by this? Well, with somebody who wants to quote-unquote make people hate him, he has quite the array of widely publicized moments of him being really kind or breaking character, if you will. It's at points like these that people typically point to and say, oh, now that's the real Colby Covington. But is it really? There's been so many accounts of Colby being kind behind the scenes, but there's also been a lot of accounts of him being foul.
I actually hear he's a really nice guy in real life. Like, I hear he's really cool, really nice guy.
I love what he brings to the table. He pushed me, but as a person, he's a rotten piece of shit.
He is a nice guy.
He was great.
I've hung out with him at the Comedy Store.
There's no coincidence that, Tyrone Woodley got to know him and hates him. I got to live with him and really don't like him. He really is a rotten person. I think the MMA community is going to start to see it.
It's kind of hard to gauge who to believe. I'd like to believe that he's someone worth rooting for, but it's kind of hard to tell. To gauge his character in the fairest possible way, we'll focus more on what there is actual proof of. Sociopathy, or antisocial personality disorder, is a disorder in which a person consistently shows no regard for right and wrong and ignores the rights and feelings of others.
I know you gave Glenn a heart attack for all those years you were ducking me, so don't worry, he'll be watching from hell on December 14th.
Hey, let's talk about the lesson we learned tonight. It's a strong lesson that Robbie should have learned from his good buddy, Matt Hughes. You stay off the tracks when the train's coming through, Junior. Don't matter if it's a Trump train or the Colby train. Get out the way!
Sociopathy is not inherently a bad thing, especially in the fight business. Lacking empathy is beneficial for those who make a living from brutalizing other people in a cage. I would like to say first, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not here to diagnose anyone, but to me, I think we can see clear signs that Colby is at least on the ASPD spectrum. A sociopathic personality can lead somebody to stop at nothing to get what they want, including using and manipulating others with little regard for their feelings. As he says, it's not the feelings business.
I'm not in the feelings business.
The timeline between Colby and Jorge is very cluttered, but as a summary, Colby was recruited into American Top Team in 2011 to bolster the team's wrestling pedigree. Beforehand, Colby had been getting into a little trouble, being accused of fourth-degree assault after allegedly punching 2 people in the face, as well as being arrested for driving under the influence, similar to his old college roommate Jones. But all of that was now behind him, and it was time for a fresh start. After all, people change, right? Early on, Jorge took Colby under his wing in a sense. He let Colby move in with him, they helped each other wrestle, strike, spoke about their dreams of making millions and reaching the pinnacle of mixed martial arts, etc. They became the best of friends. But you knew this already. What matters more here is where it all went wrong. In particular, when it all went wrong. Throughout their journeys together, it seemed Jorge was always just one step above Covington.
This guy used to sleep on my couch, he used to eat off me because I was the one with the sponsors. He was just still relatively an amateur and I was helping this guy out.
It ain't that George money, but I'm working my way up.
You did a couple fights.
You gotta start somewhere.
Training with somebody that's more experienced than you brings you up to their level. As the saying goes, you're the average of the 5 people you keep around you. Once it seemed Colby and Jorge were at an equal playing field in the welterweight rankings, following Jorge's move up, there's nothing more for Colby to gain by staying friends with him. In fact, it made all the sense in the world to fight him, as he had all the hype in the world at the time. Coincidentally, this is the point where Colby and Jorge began having issues.
All he cares about is himself. He doesn't care for anybody unless they can do something for him.
It hurts that he would do that in a way just for a like on Facebook, you know?
If we bring it back, sociopaths lack regard for others. They do things for themselves. Sure, they were friends for years. Best friends even. They went to war together, they ate together, they slept together, but that doesn't matter. This isn't a feelings business. Those who are willing to act in spite of their feelings will make it the furthest here. Who's in the right and who's in the wrong between Colby and Jorge is something that people still speculate about now. But regardless of who's right and wrong, the utter lack of regard for the people he's trained with for 8 years is very apparent.
And as far as Joanna Jędrzejczyk, I could give a fuck less about her. She's washed up. Nobody cares about her. You know, look at her face. She got her face rearranged. Joanna wants an apology from me, so here I am for my apology. Joanna, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had to get your face rearranged, and I got rich. I made a Rolex off Joanna Jędrzejczyk's bitch ass.
I don't know. I wish him all the best. You know, he's my teammate, and I wish him all the best. But you know, sometimes he should behave better. You know, don't act like that.
I like Colby. I like the energy he brings, and I'm typically rooting for him, with the exception of his fight against Jorge. But I really cannot see how people can say, oh, you know, he's just the nicest person ever off camera, really. Colby had to play a character to save his career, yes. But turning on the people who helped make him just for a little extra money, that's kind of fucked up, bro. I don't know. You can't really justify that. Almost all of Colby's former roommates and teammates have had nothing but nasty things to say about who he is behind the scenes. But it's interesting to me that Jon Jones is the person piping up about him being a bad person.
Yeah, Colby's a habitual liar. He really is. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of people don't consider me to be a good person, but I mean, coming from me, Colby's a really bad person. I got to live with him and really don't like him. If any of you guys got to know him, man, he really is a rotten person.
The contrast between Jones and Colby is one that I want to highlight here. It seems to me that Colby uses an outwardly provocative and controversial character to almost double bluff the audience into believing he's a good person. He wants people to like him, and he wants people to believe that he's good behind the persona. While with Jones, it's like he tried to cover up who he really was with the good Christian boy act that he had for so long. Both of them want to be liked, with more emphasis on polarization from Colby, but they both went about it in completely opposing ways. Colby uses his blatantly obvious character with several televised and perhaps manipulative cracks in the facade to be liked, while Jones tried to put up a complete good boy act which ultimately backfired. A really interesting dichotomy to me, and it makes it even more poetic with the two of them being roommates at one point. There has been so many rumors thrown around about Colby, things that I want to look deeper into. Ben Askren, Jon Jones, and Colby's old wrestling teammates have all mentioned Colby being a genuinely nasty person.
Colby's a terrible person. I am in the wrestling community. The wrestling community is tight-knit. We know who sucks and who doesn't suck. Everywhere Colby's been, nobody likes him. We are seeing that now come out of ATT. Joanna, Dustin, George. I mean, who likes him?
With so many personal accounts being thrown at him, it leads me to believe that Colby was in fact a bit nasty before MMA. As mentioned earlier, this was the era he was being arrested for drunk driving and allegedly assaulting 2 people. But we can't deny the amount of positive stories about Colby now. From what I see, it kinda seems like he was just a bit of a troubled kid in the past. But maybe through his MMA journey he began to mellow out. Obviously, not completely. But with most of the recent accounts being positive, and most of the older accounts being negative, maybe we've seen Colby grow up before our very eyes. There's still some nastiness there, of course. He's a fighter, but I'm not fully sold on his persona or the nice guy we sometimes see flashes of. I think the real him lies somewhere in between. Regardless, Colby has created one of the greatest false personas I've ever seen. Colby has done it in such a sneaky way where even now, it's hard for me to not root for him, even though, from all accounts, he may in fact be a bit of a nasty guy. How can you not root for somebody stopping at nothing to claim the life he wants? We all love a good bad guy. It's feelings that drives clicks, but in this business, those who rise to the top have none.